Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny and I hope you're having amazing holidays. It's a great holiday season. We're saying goodbye to 2023 and this is going to be the last live coding and chill of the year. So we're going to be going over SvelteKit and Airtable. I was inspired to do this because someone, Fred, jumped into the Discord and suggested or said that they're looking into Airtable as a Firebase replacement, which was very interesting. I have done it in the past. If you don't know about Airtable, I've said many times in the past that what people have really been paying me money for 20 years in especially web dev has been getting data, fetching them, render them nicely on the screen. That's the bread and butter of software engineering. And most of the time, I'm getting the data from an Excel spreadsheet. It used to be Microsoft Excel, then Google Sheets, some CSV file. And even today with AI and LLMs and all of that, there's still, like if you look hard enough, all the way down, it's still CSV files like which have the embeddings and all of those things. So everything runs in spreadsheets. And that's the idea behind Airtable, I suppose. They figured, well, if everything runs in spreadsheets, if everyone in the company understands that there is going to be a CSV, Excel, Google Sheets file that they can edit and then something else will happen, that's where the records are going to be, that's the source of truth. What if we still had spreadsheets, but they looked a bit nicer? What if they were supercharged? What if we could do more things like embed images, drag and drop, that sort of thing? And they created Airtable, and lots of startups, big and small, but mostly small, have been running their business based on something like this. Airtable, essentially Google Sheets on steroids with lots of integrations with stuff like Slack or Zapier, so you can send automated messages and emails and that sort of thing. It's impressive. It's good. I have used it before. I would not say it's a Firebase replacement. I often use Supabase as a Firebase replacement because Supabase, like Firebase, also takes care of things like authentication, which Airplay doesn't. But sometimes you just want an easily editable file that you can share to other people in the company. They can edit things, they can add the translations. All of these things are more easily achieved with less setup with Airtable. And then if you do succeed with your product, if you are a successful company, then you hire someone like me or other principal software engineers to re-platform and say, all right, we need to break out of Airtable because we want something more complicated or something safer and more production ready. Because Airtable is lagging a bit on the staging versus testing versus production front, no migrations. It is quite expensive after a point, although we will be using the free tier today and forever for this project because it's a small project. But pros and cons, as it always happens with web engineering, rarely are there ever any silver bullets where you can say, just use this. But long story short, thank you, Fred, for the suggestion and inspiring me today to get off the holiday celebrations and relaxations and make the stream because I love doing things that people find useful. So if I've helped you in another video, I love hearing that I have, and I love getting suggestions on what you'd like me to cover next. So Airtable it is today. And we'll be expanding the SvelteKit application that we have here, which just has the OpenCritic games of the year, which are only based on the overall score, on the average score of a title on the aggregate. But I want to do my own tier list, and that's what I'll be using Airtable for. So I have created this spreadsheet, I guess, this one view, which has the OpenCritic IDs of some games. No thoughts yet. They say the platform I played the game on, whether I've completed it, whether I've done more than 6 credits and went 100% or even more, if we're talking Donkey Kong 64, when I started playing, and we're going to do the live grading today. I have some thoughts on the tiers that the games I've played this year fall into, but I'd love to discuss them because some people know that I got into software engineering and web engineering in the end because I loved video games. I was fascinated by some specific video games, Final Fantasy 6, 3, as I knew it back then, Breath of Fire, and I will tell that story later, ask for the story, and I will recount it yet again. But this is my way of tying into what got me into this amazing web dev field that we're all in. And again, thanks to Fred, it shows me that people, even in this holiday season, are willing to learn, they're willing to do something, so I'm trying to help. Anything else in the preamble to go over? Not really, I don't think. If you're watching this in the future, this should be future-proof, at least for a long time. We're using SvelteKit 2, which doesn't have that many changes from SvelteKit 1. Anyway, in regards to the things we're going to be doing, it has none. We are going to be using Airtable using an bearer token, a personal bearer token, which is future-proof because they are deprecating the use of API keys. So you should be good to go, and let me know how the future is for you. So let's see. We do have this SvelteKit app. All it has is this main page. I've created this to show the few transitions, API, the back and forth transitions, that sort of thing. Watch that video. It will explain it better than I can live. But the idea is that we'll have a new route here that's maybe just going to be called Tierlist, and at the moment it can point to the one tier list I'm going to have, my tier list. In the future you can have something where you look into a slug or to ID and you have many tier lists. I guess the inspiration of this would be tier maker, which I see very often in videos, but it has so many ads that I don't like using it myself. And the idea will be that we render something like this in the end. Maybe in the future we can do like some drag and drop stuff to update the data, our tiers, our games to tiers, assign them like that. But we're not going to be doing that today. All we're going to be doing to start with is read this list, this Excel spreadsheet from Airtable, and figure out how we're going to do that. First, let's say that the route that we want users to go on, and as always, this is a real app, you can go there, and at the end of the stream I will update our changes. The idea will be that maybe we can have like a dedicated route, like Johnny's reviews, like 2023 tier list. Maybe tier list 2023 is where I want people to go on. Tier lists 2023, and you can imagine that we can have like other ones like 2024 or games of the century or something like that. So this will be a slug in the end, but for today we only have the one. So in order for SvelteKit to render something in this route, so if I go here, we'll get a 404, but we have done this before. If you've been on another stream, you should know what we should be doing. We want the routes directory to be reflecting the path. So in routes, what we want is a tier lists slash 2023 directory, and in there we want a page .svelte to show some UI, and immediately you can see that we get there, implemented the first step. If in the future this is going to be dynamic and this is going to be a slug, we can do it like this or like an ID or something like that. But for today, we'll only be rendering the one thing. If I make more than one tier list, if I allow people to create their own tier lists and stuff, then I'll change it. But for now, just this. Plus page is one of the magic Svelte files. It's responsible of the UI that's going to be displayed. And we have a core layout Svelte file as well here, which takes care of a few other things like dark mode, but also to render the header, the footer. So all that remains for this plus page to render is everything that goes here in the middle. And I guess we can take inspiration from maybe the game page or the about page. Don't really know. Let's see the about page. Let's steal this. And no output links. I will have added timestamps if you're from the future, if you just want to get to a point where I talk about video games. But it's important to note, these are amongst the games that I've played, and I've enjoyed all of them, and I know that game design and game dev, it's a miracle when every game gets created. So if I give it a low tier, don't be upset. It's still something I enjoyed, and I think it's a good thing any video game gets made and released and people get to play it. So what do we want here? Games of 2023 for sure. Yeah, maybe here we could have an output link to me, who is Sony anyway. And it's important to note, sometimes, like last year, that definitely happened. And there were quite a few games that I played from the past because I don't game as much as I used to. So sometimes it takes me a while to get around to games. If I played Ocarina of Time this year, would it be S tier, clear S tier? Probably. No need to overthink it and say too much. And all right, on the back end of this, we'll be fetching some data from Airtable and then rendering the list. And we'll again get some inspiration, maybe from here, from the individual game page, so like here. So let's copy that wholesale, another magic page for Svelte, always prefixed by plus. But we don't want to load a single game now. If we had a slug, then we could be looking for a slug. We don't want to cast this. And we don't want anything, really. We just want a meta title and description. This is also something set up in the layout. So let's double check. Maybe slightly bigger here. That's too long for that. Maybe the description can repeat this paragraph. Won't worry too much about SEO. And we won't be getting any locals here. So this changes the title and the description, meta stuff, but the user may also see this, so that's kind of fun. And I guess, and let's look at the agenda. We did the route. Now we want to fetch some data from Airtable. So this backend method, imagine we'll be hitting something to get all the games that we have here, and then the front end is going to be rendering them. So how do we do that? The cool thing with Airtable is that if you are logged in and you have a space, as they call it, you do get a customized API that reflects what the reality is in your specific use case. So they don't have generic API docs, they have specific API docs that reflect what goes on in your database. So here it's like, oh, if you're getting OpenCritic ID, these are some example values. Here in thoughts, because nothing has a thought, I haven't added any thought here, it does have lorem ipsum, but here for platform, it does have all the possible values, whether I played on Nintendo Switch or PS5 or Xbox Series X or PC or whatever else. And the Boolean values as well, the date values, it's quite cool that it reflects what you actually had in your spreadsheet. Of course, with documentation, if you read it hard enough, you can get how to adapt to your actual reality. But I always appreciate this sort of magic where the documentation really reflects how you named your fields and your specific situation. So what we want to do really is a curl, a fetch request to here. It looks like we need to specify the specific view as well, which is interesting. It's also saying fetch 3 records, which we probably won't be doing, and we'll be getting a response like that. They also say that they have the JavaScript API, which I'm not sure if I should use now. Oftentimes when you use an API like this, maybe it's using like node fetch and you want to use it on the browser. Maybe it is trying to use some sort of polyfill browser fetch, but it's trying to run or node, so it fails. So I guess the idea should be let's try this. Let's try to use the official Airtable API. See where we're going with this. Oh, it's also saying API key. So does the API key, does it reflect that it actually wants a bear token and not an API key because it deprecated that? We'll find out. Oh, now it's saying don't use this in the browser. So I guess it's fine. All right, let's try that. Let's go to the terminal, install Airtable. And we'll try to do it in the server file first. Or maybe not. Just to make sure that this only runs on the server. In SvelteKit, you can either add a .server.ts or have a server directory inside libserver, and SvelteKit will not allow you to run methods that you have in there from anywhere else. We can overcomplicate this and create like a Tierlist repo like I have, but I may do this offline. We'll see. Let's just create fetch tierlist.ts and have it responsible for all the Airtable stuff. The old school node is not filling me with confidence, but hey. So So if we name this Airtable API key, I guess this library will look for it magically, so we don't need to pass it in or pass in a custom endpoint URL. That's my suspicion. And I think, so the base is all of this project. I have other projects here, I suppose. And games is like a specific view, specific space. So maybe I can call this like Airtable client. And then can I do Airtable base? And I can name this OpenCritic base ID, indeed. Use it here. All right, so does this export like a base method? Yeah, so I guess I can just do this. And this should give me an Airtable client, which in theory, I should be able to use here. And it does have like a bit of a weird way to do this select, like the per page stuff, like this each page thing. For matching stuff, not sure. Oh, interesting. This return does not return fields that have empty values. All right, so here we can have a method called fetch Tierlist. It should be doing all of these. Why not? So you create this base and then you do another base? That's a bit weird. You're in this space and you get in this space. I see. But now, just to keep things confusing, I'm calling this Airtable client. All right, but it seems like that will work. If we don't say max records, it's 100 by default, great. We can run a sort later. This is good if you have other things hidden to specify a specific view. The field name or the field ID. I don't really know what that does. Find out. But let's see. So it doesn't look like we need to specify anything. Just select everything. And then 8 spades. Just keep adding stuff in an array. Makes sense. this array, and in this page, I think this is a special object that has a for each. It doesn't actually have. I can't spread it in this array. Maybe I can. Maybe I can. Trying to get into the docs to see what's happening here. It's a read-only array. So maybe I can just push the records. Then fetch the next page and do the same thing. And I can only imagine. Maybe I cannot imagine anything. Can I await this? That's my question. It feels like I could. It looks like if I just await this, when I don't give it a second parameter, it becomes a promise. So that's TypeScript coming in clutch here. It's kind of nice. After all of this, I expect the games array to be populated. What's it gonna have in there? I don't know. We'll see if it works. Console log games. See what happens. And here on the backend, we can actually say that the games should be something we await. Fetch Tierlist. That's this one. And then return it to the UI. And the UI can say something went wrong because we don't have the environment variable. That's fair enough. But the UI, in order to access this, in order for it to have access to this, we need to export let data, and then SvelteKit will magically populate this with whatever we return from our load methods, including these games. So we can JSON stringify the data we got from now, the data games we got. But it's not gonna work, I imagine, because we don't have the API key here. It could be a problem with the library as well. So one problem at a time. If this library doesn't work, of course, we'll just do a fetch request because it's only like a curl, right? It's not the end of the word. I think this is actually simpler than what they have us do. Just return us an array of records and that's it. I guess you need to like pass the offset afterwards if you don't want to do the business and stuff. So it's kind of nice, I guess. Right. Let's have a look at the example as well. Say import star as Airtable. Say Airtable base do this, but that's not a thing. Ooh. We need to do new Airtable. And here, pass the API key. Would be something. Import Airtable, and it's happier. All right, an API key is required to connect to Airtable. So we made it so far. This library should work. What we didn't need now is to create our API key. Something I didn't like in the past is that you needed to associate your own account in Airtable. And that's always a bit squirrely. In production, you'd rather have a service account and say, all right, SvelteKit service account is doing this, not Johnny is doing this because you're just a person and you want to represent your company. It's just easier to share secrets. I don't want to share my login information, so the other developer will be logging in here with my email. But if you have a service account, you can do some of that work, share some of that responsibility with someone else more safely. In any case, that's changed now. You can have service accounts with Airtable and you can create API keys for them. But for now, I will be creating a regular API key just for myself. Or, as they say, a personal access token. So I just need to go to this page and create a token here. Just press this button and see what happens. SvelteKit. Well, let's see. Add a scope. Can I add everything? Read records, for sure. Let's give them everything. Or maybe nothing. Just read and write records, let's say. And just access to the SvelteKit database that we're working with. Now, if I press create token, I imagine you will be able to see it. So let's try to not immediately leak it. I am gonna press this off screen and it did give me a token. So now I will also put my screen right there. So you shouldn't be able to see. And I will go to my .10 file to create what they want here. Let's have a double look. Somewhere, like here, authentication. Call it Airtable API key, so that's what I'm gonna call it. Not prefixing it with public means that SvelteKit will not load it browser side, so another safety measure for us. SvelteKit takes care of us. You need to prefix things with public if you want them available on the browser. So now we have that. So I'm gonna bring my stuff back. And we're still getting the same problem, so let's just rerun here and see if we get anything better. Nope. But maybe all it wants now is like API key, and then we're gonna say that we're gonna bring in a static API key. This one. It's thinking more. All right. Did I do anything more? All right, so these records are quite funky. I think we managed to load them, but they're not something that's easily serializable. That's why this crashes. So maybe I don't want to just push these records. Maybe I just want to push the fields of each record. So I guess maybe I just want the fields of each record. So I could do a records for each. Don't push the record. To start with, let's push the record fields. See what happens then. All right. So it looks like we do have an array with every game that's in here. So that's all well and good. With that information, the OpenCritic ID, platform, whether I've seen credits. So that's nice. We're getting there. So using the SvelteKit, the Airtable library, Airtable.js, did work in the end. We did need to explicitly give the Airtable API key. And we did need to import it like this, but that's fine. So we have all the games here. And I guess we want some better mapping. Let's look at the schedule, because this is kind of unworkable. I will count this as fetching data from Airtable. So it looks like we can have the fields of each record, and they will be reflecting this. They do have the problem where they have spaces in them, and that's a bit silly. Usually you'd be camel casing this, but maybe that's fine. Maybe that's not the end of the word. Maybe all we need to do is just declare a type, an Airtable game. And it's gonna have I am gonna do the casing thing just for consistency. So it's gonna have OpenCritic ID. It's gonna have platforms. Platform. It's the string, which we actually know. Maybe we can say platform is Nintendo, or PlayStation, or Xbox or PC. Mobile is a legit one, to be honest. It's gonna have may have thoughts. Always a boolean. Overclocked is a shout out to my friend who gave me this name as to what to call this. And the tier, of course. I guess we can say that tier is also S, A, B, C, D, E, F. There you go. And the games are gonna be an Airtable games array. And we can have a helper method We'll call this Tierlist game. Tierlist game. Airtable game. Who knows what this is going to look like? I don't particularly want to name it. Say it's a record of string to a known. It's going to return a tier list game. And we want all of these things. So this one's like this. I'm sure there's going to be something that it can generate TypeScript types based on this, but I'm not going to be setting it up now. Prettier is not happy. It happens. What's the problem? Problem is something here. So what am I missing here? Cheeky commas. Like if I remove this, is it fine? Yeah. So there must be something else. Oh, question mark. What's that about? So let's use this path field. And it looks like it worked. It mapped things as it should. This is a tier list game. And here we could have a type Airtable game, which I'm hoping GitHub Copilot will come in class and just do it. It seems like it did it. Wow, awesome. Right, so this is an Airtable game. And now everything is happy. Of course, a human, me, needs to, well, I guess GitHub Copilot did it, but it did it based on my mapping method. So a human still needs to have the oversight to keep this up to date. And that's the danger with Airtable. If someone goes here and edits this column, then everything breaks. That's the scary part of using Airtable. But hey, sometimes in small startups, you move fast and break things. And if you do have the integration which generates the types for you based on the schema, Airtable schema, then you're a bit safer. All right, so this, again, let's say that this is an Airtable game. I guess here we could have a type guard. So we can have is Airtable game. Game will be an Airtable game if, okay, Copilot, keep doing stuff. You've started well. No? No suggestions? So a type of game is object and not null. And yeah, maybe if it has these properties, not necessarily. So OpenCritic ID definitely needs to have that. Platform probably needs to have that. This may not exist, as we found out, like because empty records, empty rows don't return. So, and tier will not exist on any of those. So let's say, like, if those two things are true, then we're good to go. So here we can say if is Airtable game, then puts this, and we don't need to do the typecasting here. Now we're a bit safer that we'll be getting something we're expecting. Kinda makes sense. So what else? I think this is it for fetching data from Airtable with a personal access token. We nailed that. Now we'll want to mix this data with some OpenCritic data, so we can have the nice cover there, have a nice image. And then should be good to go. You can kind of notice here, but here in this game where I've seen credits, there is the boolean there, but on the other games where I haven't checked seen credits, it doesn't say false. So maybe here we should be typecasting or flipping this. And this. It would work the same, but it's just a bit nicer. All right, let's make like some decent UI for this. Maybe not necessarily this, but maybe similar. So let's see what we're doing there. Just some quick UI. So in the main route, what do we do? We have the box art and some stuff. Let's copy this idea. And here, I guess we'll have them grouped by tiers eventually, but for now, we'll see. Maybe I should be mapping this to ID. Good. So we do have an ID. We don't have a name yet. We may have a tier. Different sort of tier. Yeah, we won't have this score. And maybe we'll have like one image. And maybe we'll have started playing it. And here, I guess, this can just be the image, which we won't have for now. The ID will be correct. And here, we won't have the name of the game yet. We'll be adding it later. date format. I have this as a helper method somewhere. Guess not. Let's see if we can extract it. Do we need a utils directory? Yeah. Let's go back to this page. Let's see, don't use this. Bring it in from here so we can reuse it. But it's gonna be started playing that. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe that will work. And not a tier score. Let's just say tier. Oh, instead of name, say what? Name goes here. Game goes here. All right. So back to the page where we were. Here. Looks great. And of course we don't have the images and we don't have a tier, but we have a formatted date of when we started playing, so we're getting somewhere. Oof, games grid. I made this up. This is not Tailwind stuff. So let's create it here. Copy the style tag. Put it here. We will be amending this, but for now, it's probably fine. Looks great. All right, the big problem is that we don't have the image. So we want to also hit OpenCritic API to get the name of the game and the box art. This is one of the problems of potentially using Airtable, that you start getting into multiple sources of truth. So I'm using the OpenCritic ID here, and I know that I'll be hitting the OpenCritic API to get further information for each game, which is fine. But it's a bit less readable here as I'm editing the data here. So no human will know which game this is. Like they may be able to guess if they see, oh, PlayStation, and you started playing like around then. You may have some thoughts, but ideally you'd want a name here, like a human readable name. But then, isn't OpenCritic API supposed to be a source of truth? Like if OpenCritic API changes the name, should it be changing yours? If it's all in your own database, then it's easier to handle. And if you're using something like a Supabase, it's easier to do one-to-many or many-to-many relations as well. So that's something I guess to keep in mind. But for now, all I want is to use the OpenCritic IDs to get the images, I suppose. Let's see, how does that work? Can I get many games at a time? It doesn't look like it. So just the one ID with a number. You cannot hit it with many IDs, which is fine. It's okay. You cannot do like comma, get me another game, right? Yeah. Doesn't look like it. So for all these games that I'm fetching, I need a separate API request, which is not ideal. But we'll be casting stuff, and it's like a backend operation at least, so maybe not the end of the world. So in our first tier list thing, we do have these records. Maybe these records could be promises, and then I can await them. Because I want some fields from the OpenCritic API. So maybe I want all of these to be new promises. Let's start like this and see what happens. I thought it'd be working the same, but I guess not. Still no. So each one of these is a promise. Each one of these should be a promise. Name is not defined. Okay, so it's eventually gonna work. But what do I actually want to do here? Instead of just resolving this promise, I want to enhance this, like enhance with OpenCritic data. It gets an Airtable game. And it returns a tier list game. And for now, let's just return this Airtable game. Call it tier list game. Maybe we map it here. So now can do this, 20 parentheses, and we can, it still works the same, only now we can actually enhance this method to actually call the OpenCritic API. Let's see how we're calling it before. We have a repo here. the OpenCritic API games repo. And we get a game like this. So we can do that. So I think we will need to complicate things a bit more to make them easier. So we will create why do I have this? For testing? For mock service worker? I think so. On the repos, the games interface that I want, maybe, not sure. In my main hooks file, and to create this games repo here. And should I have a tier list repo that needs the games repo? I think that could be fine. Yeah, so for our repos, let's say that we have a tier list. And let's say that it has a tier list interface implement. And we won't be talking about tiers and stuff for now. Have a tier list repo. And we'll have a get tier list method, which in the future will have like an ID, but it's fine. And it's here that we'll be copying maybe all of these things. Maybe not Airtable specifically. So if I do switch from Airtable to Supabase, this will be easier to do. Let's export this just in case. And this should return tier list game array, get tier list, that's it. And tier list game should look like this, but it should also have an image that has a string and a name that also has a string. I guess that's it. And now we can create an Airtable API tier list. So this tier list implementation is going to be used in Airtable, and then I can have like a Supabase API tier list, which uses Supabase of etc. or a Firebase one or an in-memory one for testing or mock service worker. That's the main idea. And this one should not have all of these things, but should have a lot of the things that we wrote in this Airtable file. So it should have Airtable game, tier from tier list interface. It's a different tier. Tier list tier. It should be implementing tier list repo. And as we call it, should be this. And we won't be needing any of these. What we will be needing is an Airtable API key. And this, I guess. Let's see. We use this already. Getting there with the refactoring. So this should have an Airtable API key, which is going to be this. And let's say it also has a SvelteKit base ID. Or Tierlist. Tierlists. Base ID. Ah, SvelteKit base ID. Bring this in. So we don't want this. We don't want any of these. We don't want the client. Maybe we do want it to be private here. Maybe we want a constructor. A constructor, we can do those couple things. I want to bring this in from Airtable. Let's do it. Airtable client will be this. Airtable will be Airtable base, I guess. Guess we won't be using it again, so maybe we don't actually need it. And here the only method we'll be implementing is whatever we called it, fetch games or something. Fetch Tierlist, get Tierlist. Cute. And in here, we'll be doing all of the stuff we were doing in this file. All this crazy stuff. That remains. paste all of this. So we'll paste it here. Okay, maybe one thing at a time. Take this back. Let's do our helper method first. Help method number 1. It's complaining because now Tierlist game is something else. That's fine. It's fine for now. Helper method number 2. And maybe finally, not finally, helper method number 3. And now finally, this thing to fetch the tier list. Need to bind the context. Haven't done that in a while. Context bound, this bound. So we can use this the same. All right, amazingly, even with these red lines here, if I were to go to my hooks file and say that now I want event locals tiers repo to be this. Did I export this? But I need to go to my definitions as well and say that in the locals I do have a tiers repo. That's what I called it, right? And it's gonna be a tiers, tier lists repo. Let's say tier lists repo. So let's go back to the hooks, tier lists repo. And even if I delete this file now and get a quick 500, if in my load method I access the locals and say that my games are locals tier list repo get tier list, then we should be back to working the same way. Great. Why am I doing all of this? Because the next step is to also require this Airtable thing to get a games repo. So to construct this, you also need a games repo. And then you do this games repo, it's games repo, and you specify that games repo is games repo. And when you construct it in the hook file, you should be passing it this. I don't know why my terminal keeps appearing. Make me miss the copy. And now, finally, I should be able to use the OpenCritic API to enhance my records, which is great. So where's my enhance with OpenCritic data stuff? Here. So I do want game repo, get game, OpenCritic ID. And I guess I could be requesting like less data here since we only want the name, I suppose, and the image. But hey, optimization for later. Airtable game and game. Is that what we need? The problem here is that we need a name and we need an image, right? And then it's gonna be happy. Yeah, so if we have those two things, we're happy. Those are the two things we want from the games repo. So if we give it as a second parameter this game, maybe it will just work. Let's save and have a look at the right. What's the problem here? Oh no. Well, that's a problem. We can just throw an error. Great. Written box, it doesn't have box. So it auto-completed something like the images here. It's weird. Box. So in the get game, what do I get back? This should work, right? So images box OG, images box. Let's just give it the empty string for now. See if everything else works. Doesn't look like it. making too many requests. Could be. Let's console log this game. Looks fine. Where am I exactly doing the fail thing? No one knows. So map OpenCritic game to game. In here, maybe sometimes we don't have box. Maybe for some games they don't have box art. These are the only two places that this happens, so this won't happen again. And yet. Map OpenCritic game to game. 3816. It's here. Does it have literally no images? I guess so. So that's a problem. So my problem is that I need to make up like some images now, like some like placeholder images. Looks fine. Let's do this for now to see if things actually work. Now what's the problem? Should it be ticking all the time? I guess so. I guess so. So they may have images, but they may not have the image array completely, but they may also not have a specific resolution. So I need some placeholder art, I guess. Which I can use placeholder for now. And do the same trick here. And I just need like the correct aspect ratios afterwards. It's not too bad. I can have some static files, some static images that do this. All right, now what? Again, the same thing. Oh, we made it. All right. So is the problem that we never get any images? That's a bit suspicious, isn't it? Maybe my IDs are wrong. That's the real problem. Oh. Yeah, that's definitely fishy. Let's use the name of the game. Always undefined. So there must be something funky going on. We're using this method, the getGame method, which is run in this map OpenCritic API game to game, gets a JSON response, runs it through this, and does some stuff. It could be that we've run out of tokens at this point as well. Oh, interesting. So when we click through, it does go to the correct game. Oh. All right. So a decent amount of these games don't have cover art, or maybe I have like incorrect IDs, but I don't, because if I click there, the casting problems, or too many request problems? Maybe. All right, seems like we've gotten somewhere. For 8720. I'll fix these off screen. Yeah, sometimes it fails, so I can only imagine that I'm doing too many requests at the same second. So I'm getting rate limited. Has to be. That's why I'm not getting the names as well. So it must be that at some point the request is failing. Let's look at the Airtable API. The OpenCritic API. So how do I get many games? I was hoping that here, like the generic game one, that I'd be able to pass many games, game IDs, and get many, but I guess not. I will try to search here. Yeah, I won't be able to find a response just yet. Is it in the search that I can pass? Not just the criteria. So yeah, unfortunately I can't see a way to pass many of these. Because here you just have it as the URL parameter, don't you? So you can't really comma separate this. Unfortunate. It means we'll need a different way to get the images and the IDs and all of that. But we could be scraping the results as well. Oof. And 200 requests per day, like surely we're over the limit, and only 4 requests per second. So no wonder we're getting in trouble. I guess indeed you can see, like, we get 4 games and that's it. Interesting. How do we resolve this for now? We could manually edit this, like put it in our table, have like some duplication. But for that, We need to patiently steal every image, like write every image. Let's see. Let's do it. Like image, and it's gonna be a URL. So instead of enhancing with the OpenCritic API, we're gonna do something else. Is this Hi-Fi Rush? Not sure. But yeah, we'll find out. I guess the idea, like in OpenCritic, if I just search for Hi-Fi Rush, do they have their images somewhere? Unclear. Yeah, we won't know what it's gonna be. Oh, I have a list. If I look in, interesting. Interesting. So all this says to me is that we cannot hit the OpenCritic API, so we'll need to duplicate some data. And somehow figure out the image for each one of these. All right, we'll do it. If we click, we can go to the actual game. So what we did here, requiring the games repo in the Airtable helper, we won't be doing it. No games repo. None of this. None of this. The Airtable game should have a name, it's going to be a string, and an image, which is also going to be a string. Now we're saying that this has a name and an image. Great. Actually, uppercase N, uppercase I. We're not going to be using this. We're not going to be doing this. And we're not going to be enhancing with OpenCritic data or anything like that. We don't need this to be async anymore. So here we just want to do this. Don't promise anymore. Return the games. Not doing this. Stay all well and dandy. Looks great. Did I call it image here? Oh, lowercase mods. Lol. So one of them should have animals. Eventually. And it should have a name as well. Why does it think that this is the password? I don't know. So I think this may be Hi-Fi Russ. Actually, this is going to be Hi-Fi Russ. Copy paste in action. All right, we've got somewhere. We have one. We need to pass the games repo here. And I hope that this will look better. Or actually, I can copy this, can I not? This placeholder. And see if that's a thing, then use it, or else use this. All right, now it's something we can work with at least. Doesn't look too bad. All right, so we tried to work with a third-party API, and we did, but the OpenCritic Rapid API is super small with how many requests it allows, which exposes some of the problems of using Airtable itself. Now, it means that we will need to duplicate some data and do our own work to keep this up to date, make sure that the game matches with whatever else we need to work with, but it could be fine. But we sought a way to do this. I have this hooks file, I have these game repos and Tierlist repos. Could be over engineering, you can do it with just one method, as I showed earlier, the start of the stream or the middle of the stream, wherever we were. But that's a way to do like some of the work in your hooks file and put your repos in the locals, and then on every load method, all you have to do essentially is to take your repos out of your locals and get what you want. I find this a bit easier to work with. I do miss this when I work with Next.js. For example, there is no easy way to change whether you're using an in-memory repo or a Supabase repo or whatever else, which does kind of lock you in with your decisions. So now we're playing with Airtable. Working against interfaces and repos like this does mean that I can more easily switch to Supabase or just have it in memory and have all of these hard-coded to the code base. The cool thing with Airtable is that I can share this with someone else and update it, or even more realistically, I don't need a code change to say, oh, I've completed this game or I've played it more, or what I'm gonna be doing soon is categorize these to tiers. I think that's gonna be it. I don't think I'm gonna be grouping this to tiers just yet, because we spent so much time. Other things with Airtable, you do have a lot of power with what exactly these columns can be. You can have fields that are numbers or booleans like checkboxes. You can have rating fields, 1 out of 5 stars or however many you want. Single text fields, multiple text fields. You can use Markdown if you want on them, or rich text. I wouldn't recommend, but you can do it. You can reference other records in other tables, in other spaces. Here, there is quite a lot of power in what you can do here. You can use formula, of course. Much like Excel spreadsheets and Google Sheets, like there is no limit to what you can do. The only limit is how well you can work the spreadsheets, I suppose. You can do some magic here. And you can have some integrations happen as well. You can set up some rules to say that the moment I finish this game, like send a tweet using a Zapier integration, send a threads post, taking or linking the link that I have here. You can do some pretty cool stuff with this. But there are limitations, of course, if you actually have lessons. The easiest way to work with that in the same way and ensure that when you delete one record, others cascade and delete as well, to ensure consistency, you could be using a relational database. You could be using a Postgres database, which is the one Supabase has, for example. It's a more production-ready solution for sure, but maybe you don't need that. Maybe what you really need is an easy interface people understand, are familiar with, that they can just go in and toggle the button and fix a spelling mistake and that sort of thing. And in that case, Airtable is great. It's perfectly fine. All right, let's add a link to this tier list. So I guess let's go to the headers. And maybe we can call this thought I copied this, I guess I didn't. Let's call it tier lists. And put it first. And capitalize this. So now you can be on the main page and you go to tier lists and you see this. All right. And tier undefined. I guess I missed. I guess I want it here. And here, this should be defined unranked. Maybe a last thing for the mapper. If there is no tier, add a question mark. So that looks kind of fine. What else should we do for fun? We could group these by tiers. Let's see how sorting works, I guess. We could use the API to sort this. But we could also be pressing this button for started playing. Sort like this. So in this view, but of course, if someone is trying to mess with this view and see their own data, then this will change. So let's see, the second one should be 24th of March. Maybe not. Kaifaras should be first, then should be someone else. Well, let's try to do this. It feels like here we can pass in a sort. It can be this and sort by. Started playing that. Ascending. All right, so this worked, even though this claimed that it will. We didn't specify the view, so maybe that's the problem. Maybe if we did specify this as the default view, maybe it'd be using the sort that we have here. Could be, but hey, we've learned how this works. Can we also group? No grouping. So let's do this on the backend. Did I leave any console logs? I don't think so. Doesn't look like it. So what I'm thinking now, before we start talking video games finally, is maybe I can group these tiers, games. And does not have a group by yet. Node 21 has, but we're not running Node 21. So I think we'll need to reduce this. And I guess say S, A, B, C, D, E, F, sure. And we can start. Another 2 summons has been insane. Just to know what I want this to look like. I want it to be an array, so it's easily iterable. Name. Right, do your work. Copilot. No? Yeah, go on. You can do it more. It's going to be the world's least effective reduce. Oh well. Right, and here is where I can specify that this is an array of objects that have a name that's a tier string, and games that are games, tier list games. And it's happy. And then I'll be returning this. So in the UI, here, like a big section. Have a big it's actually. The moment I open the it's, the Copilot refuses to help. Maybe because I need to close it too. Wow. Without autocomplete, like, I cannot do much. Something else that I'm doing wrong. This auto-completed a bit too much. So tier name, and then I guess I want this it's all UL, but instead of it's data games, it's gonna be tier games. Tier with games. Now I can use this. All right. And we can say if tiers with games length more than 0, do this. Else do nothing. All right. I think we're good to start talking about games. We may be good to go. Maybe this needs a bit of Excel question marks then. Oh, actually, no section for this. I don't want to drop it. And in theory, maybe I don't even need the tier question mark anymore. Maybe I'll have like a Johnny's notes or something, but I can probably deploy this and then you can see it immediately. We could be hovering over here and having like some extra information and stuff. But I think this is enough. All right, so 15 games. We'll be talking about 15 games. I am gonna be pasting this on the back end. I guess we don't need this anymore. I need to be returning the games. To tiers. And I can go to GitHub, compare and pull requests, and add this habit ready, like just in case we discover something. I may change it. All right, so 2 hours, 3 minutes in. We're ready to go. I'm ready to start talking about video games. Anyone who has thoughts in the chat, please let me know. The thing with the video games is, as I said in the start, it is what originally got me into engineering, playing Final Fantasy VI and Breath of Fire and all those games that had these huge, amazing worlds that I couldn't imagine how they fit into these little Super NES cartridges. And then I started thinking, when I started seeing so many enemies that were palette swaps. What I found out later is palette swaps. Is this a trick? Is this how they fit this much game into this little cartridge? Are they somehow reusing enemies, recasting enemies, and saving space? And looking into it and finding out that that's essentially what was happening. Doing those recolors was cheaper. That reuse was cheaper than designing a brand new enemy, both in human resource, which I found out much later, but also in physical memory resource, I suppose. Ooh, I don't have the API key. I just found out here. So that's something to add offline, because I would need to switch to the other screen. So I was fascinated to figure out that they use that ingenious trick to save some space and put those many enemies and have a longer game, a bigger game in this cartridge. And I was like, wow, like engineering is cool, software is cool, machines are cool, I want to learn programming and I want to make games. Growing up in Greece, making games wasn't that much of a viable career option, at least back then. So I started doing web engineering and making websites and stuff. And the more you do something, the better you become, the more specialized you become. And when you're good at something, the more you like it, people usually start paying you more because you have more skills. So you like that more. So you kind of get deeper and deeper into those suites, especially if you like what you're doing, because I do love, still like 20 years later, web engineering, software engineering. But I do have a soft spot for games, although now mainly I play them. I don't play that many, but I have played a few this year as well, and I want to do this celebratory list. Every game that gets released is a miracle. There's a lot happening behind the scenes for sure. So if you don't agree with me, that's fine. It doesn't mean that the game you like is trash. I wish I loved the game you liked. And similarly, if I like a game, fair play to me. Don't need to bring any game that I like down. And even if I rate something like, C or something, it doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's that I didn't really enjoy it. And maybe what I really want to do is play Baldur's Gate again. So let's get started to this little tier list. I know that gaming discussions can get surprisingly toxic, so no need for that, no need for arguing. It's just something to do for fun as the year wraps up. Hope you enjoyed. So let's get talking. The first game, apparently, the first new game that I played this year was Hi-Fi Rush, which was shadow dropped after an Xbox event, and everyone loved it. And it looks so cool. I do like rhythm games. I did like Crypt of the Necrodancer and what was it? Cadence of Hyrule, the Zelda one. I do like that sort of game. And I do like spectacle fighters like Devil May Cry. So I did like this one. I did like Hi-Fi Rush for sure, where you play as this fun character who also teams up with a very cute cat as well, cat robot, and a few other colorful characters. The enemies are colorful, like it's a bit of Kill Bill vibes, but much sillier. It was good. I didn't finish it, but I enjoyed what I played of it. I would put it in B tier, I would say. Good B tier game. Hi-Fi Rush, which I think is this. So let's see if that's gonna work. Assigned tier. Here if I refresh, disappears and goes to B tier. Great. Awesome. So yeah, cool. Hopefully we won't run out of tokens. Next game I played, 24th of March. Resident Evil 4, the remake. Yeah, so that game was awesome. Let's update this. Put it in our database so it will appear in the other view as well. Guess I don't need anything more there. Let's you gather your thoughts on what you thought about the Resident Evil 4 remake. Let me do this. So the critics liked it, it seems, and I loved it. I remember I played the original one only on the Wii, so maybe a year after it was released for the GameCube, and I really loved it. And I remembered one particular set of enemies that really scared me, and you had to find a special gun to fight them nicely. I think everyone remembers the start of the game and the chainsaw guys and the chainsaw girls as well. And that's cool as well. Like some people don't like the latter parts of the game, but I loved it, and I loved the remake as well. A bit of silly quest happening there, lots of silly lines, campy lines, which was the point. I really loved it. I'd say it's borderline S tier. Leon is extremely cool, so cheesy. Like I love him. Looks great for sure. Pulls off that jacket extremely well. I wish I had a jacket like that. I almost did. And your companion character is more bearable now. So that's amazing what they've done with Ashley. Like you can't accidentally kill her, or can you? Like I guess you can actually shoot her. I feel like they've improved something on that front. Like, sometimes I do think she did run into an explosion. Yes, she doesn't have like a health that you need to keep feeding her herbs and potions and all of that. If she takes like 2 hits, then it's a game over for you and she's gone. But she recovers health like the Call of Duty way, where I guess she gets jam in her face and then needs to hide in a corner a while and recuperates. So lots of fun things in Resident Evil 4 remake, and fewer annoyances than what they had before. And for the Wii, I did play the other Wonk DLC, but I didn't play it for this one. So I can only imagine it gets even better. We'll try playing it again. There were quite a few great games this year. This is borderline S tier. But it is a remake, and I didn't know what I was doing. It's quite amazing that sometimes they do play with the things that you were expecting, like hiding upstairs in that early area in the chairs or whatever they had, and then it kind of breaks. So when you think you're safe and you're like, oh yeah, I got those little Spanish, not zombies, you're in trouble again. Another difference is that now I do understand some Spanish and I do live in Spain or Barcelona. So that was quite fun. Maybe S tier. This could be S tier, but I will put it at A tier for now. Gone. All right, next. Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I am a Nintendo fanboy. I am a Zelda fanboy as well. I did love Breath of the Wild. I have a friend that didn't like Breath of the Wild because it wasn't that much of Zelda. Well, we liked it, but in a different way. That same friend didn't like Majora's Mask because it wasn't that much of a Zelda. I never had these qualifications. I thought Majora's Mask was amazing. I also think Groundhog Day and that sort of time loop type of game is amazing. I don't really care if there's like a specific format in a particular series and then one of the games breaks it. I think it's even cooler when they do. So similarly, I loved Breath of the Wild as well, which didn't have the traditional amazing dungeon, and in the dungeon we find a new weapon and then you use it in a very specific way, and then in the next dungeon you keep compounding with new items and new creative ways to solve puzzles. I didn't mind that Breath of the Wild was none of that. It was mostly about exploration and doing your own thing, and mainly getting like 3 skills at the start and messing with those, messing with physics puzzles. I love that, like new direction for Zelda, and everyone was expecting the follow-up, so was I, and I loved it. It was great. It was amazing. I'd say S tier. I think there are like 3 Zelda games on this one, and the one on Hyrule is S tier Zelda game. The Sky stuff is A tier Zelda, maybe B tier Zelda, and the underground stuff is like C tier Zelda. I didn't quite like them. They weren't quite as good as the Elden Ring underground stuff. I wish there was less of it, but still fun, I would say. I haven't finished it yet. Even the Breath of the Wild, the original one, it took me like 4 years, or I only finished it last year. I went up to the 3rd dungeon, Fantastic Beast, or what they were calling it, Divine Beast, and ran out of steam back then, and then picked it back up and finished it all the way in preparation for this. And by accident, I think the same thing happened. I've done most things. I've seen like the big spoiler things as well. I haven't seen them. I try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, but I've done quite a few of the spoiler things I imagine this game has, and it's really good. But other games came out and it ran out of steam a little bit for me. Still, clearly S tier. It is very fun to build random constructions. I'd say one more thing is that the little quests that people hate, from that people now don't really like with Ubisoft style games like Assassin's Creed, which I love that series. The difference here is that every single thing that you do multiple times always has a little new niggle, a little quibble, a little complication that makes me smile. So you have the tower that you need to climb or operate, and if you saw it on a map and saw that you need to do like 15 of these, in an Ubisoft game, you get overwhelmed and you are like, this kind of sucks, it's the same thing. But in Tears of the Kingdom, it has like this niggle, like, oh, there is this guy that is trying to get in through the door, but the door is stuck. It's raining, so this won't operate. There are some little things that you need to fix. The sign guy as well, that is trying to put up signs of his boss and his construction company all over Hyrule, is also an example of this, where you keep doing the same thing, but it's slightly different. So it's kind of cool. I think this is something that Nintendo and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom gets, that a lot of the Ubisoft style games don't get. That it's nice to do something that you think is cool, that you think is good gameplay, like clear out a camp of enemies. It's cool, but you need that little extra complication each time to make it feel more fresh. You can't just say, all right, it's going to be the same thing, do it 30 times. So yeah, I'd be remiss to not put Zelda as S tier. And it does look like I did play it on release. So this one is actually Zelda. And I know I'm not breaking any ground. I didn't really play many like indie darlings. These are mostly gonna be very big games. All right, 21st of June. What could this be? Cassette piece. So that is cute. I did love the Pokemon games as I was growing up. And I wish they would grow up with me and they kept being improved on instead of sticking to the same formula. I guess that's kind of similar to what I was saying about Zelda, that I don't mind when a series breaks its own formula and tries something new. Cassette base is kind of like that. It doesn't have as cute designs as Pokemon has. It doesn't have the benefit of me being nostalgic about Pokemon for like 20 years or however long. But still, it's a nice butler game, like cut some things, evolve some things, mix some things up, and take turns fighting. Enhance the 2v2 fighting that makes things more complicated. I didn't play it that much, is the problem. So I think I will just put it at B tier and move on and probably play more now. So looks like this is Cassette Beasts. Game Pass. Alright, Nintendo One coming up. Something I saw credits on. What could it be? Pikmin 4. Right, now we're talking. So, I haven't particularly liked the previous Pikmin games. I definitely played 2 quite a lot. I think I've played 1, but not really. I think the time pressure gets to me. But on this one, it was chill and intense at the same time. Maybe it was a bit too easy at times, but you get into like the productive tandoori groove, and it feels good. And I did see credits. I did play a little bit in the post game where it gets a bit harder. It also has like a hidden Pokemon 1 game, essentially once you roll credits that you can do, or right before you roll credits, which was quite nice. It's a hefty game, heftier than you may think. The dog character, Otzi, I think, is very fun to use and go around and have all the Pokemon jump on its back and start singing. It's cute. Cute game, cute premise, all about productivity. We do that in this channel sometimes. So, A tier, I would say. Don't have any functionality to have like tiebreakers here. Maybe we will add it later. So this is Pikmin 4. All right, next up, PlayStation. Baldur's Gate 3. Here we go. Now we're talking. So Baldur's Gate 3, clear S tier game. I do like it more than The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's my game of the year. Playing it, there were quite a few situations where it was a bit too glitzy, where I did know exactly what I want to do or what the solution of the puzzle should be, but the game master wasn't there to tell me, yeah, Johnny, do it, like roll and it will happen. Still, thinking about it in retrospect as well, it did so many things so well. It had so many options on the table. The writing is amazing. It's been maybe 10 years since I've had a game hit me like this. I do love going on an adventure with a crew that I can call my friends, and all of the characters here, even Lazelle, even Will, are very likable, are people that I would want to hang around with. Yes, in the case of Will and Lazelle, like people I would keep in my camp and have them be funny for a while, but mostly hang around with Karlak. Karlak is not on the box art. That's insane. I guess it was a later redesign. Full disclosure, I am a D&D nerd, super nerd. I've DM'd and I've run parties as well. But I do think even though the tactics part can be a bit overwhelming if you don't know what can I do in a round, what's an action, what's a bonus action, what are all these spells that I need to prepare, I do think you can still enjoy this. I think you can put it maybe in a lower difficulty, and it could use a better tutorial. Maybe there are things on the internet you can watch, because it would be a shame to not experience this amazing story, mainly these amazing characters and the Galaxy Brain story that it has. It's gonna be talked about for years, I am sure, even without the benefit of hindsight, although I guess it has been out for a while now. This, like Baldur's Gate 3, has been a moment, and it's awesome. We've got Supabase here, it's all good. Great game. Of the things that I wish were happening, I guess very often I would knock out characters and would hope that I can do something interesting afterwards, but it just like never happened. Maybe like one situation where something would have been different if I did actually kill the person. But most of the time, nothing changed if I killed someone or knocked them out. There were situations where there would be a dialogue option of whether you can kinda salvage a peaceful solution, and they've thought a lot about those. But if you failed it that way and then you knocked the person out, it still counts as you killing them, I guess. That was the big thing that I wish that I could talk to Larian, like have them DM my custom session and say, but I want this to happen now. But most of the time, like lots of options for me to play around with. And if there weren't that many good games this year, I would have definitely already started my second or third playthrough of this. I've only played it once. I've done everything, I think. And the added epilogue stuff that I can't believe they keep releasing DLC for free for this. And I do think it was quite special that I managed to finish it without the epilogue and then come back to the game just to play the epilogue stuff as well, because it gives you some time to think and breathe of what may have happened in the end. Anyway, I digress. I don't know how to talk more about the quality of the game here, other that you're here mainly for the writing. The characters, especially your companions, are super interesting. I did like the bad guys as well. I do like how it feels like there is a lot of options to be the kind of more selfish person and not just the happy-go-lucky hero, like the selfless hero. You can be super evil, which I haven't tried yet, it seems. All those are crazy options to have in a game that can be like 100 hours playthrough. I really loved it. So clear S tier for me. My notes here. And I did wait to play this in the official release and on PlayStation, because I have handed my PC Gamer Master Race card, and mostly now I play on the couch. So yeah, I should need like a tiebreaker solution here, but Baldur's Gate, like playing it, I would think that it's close to Tears of the Kingdom, but by the end, looking at them both in hindsight, I'd say Baldur's Gate clear number one for me. All right, this was the big one. Let's see what we have next. Super Mario Wonder. All right. I recently finished this one, even though I started playing on release. I just need to go back to it, I suppose. And it's between a B and an A tier. I'm not sure how I feel about it. The art style is amazing. I love the more hand-drawn looking animation that they have for Wonder, even though in the cover art those look like very 3D. It's a 2D Mario platformer. The stages are very short, but they have these things called the Wonder Seeds that look like flowers that make Mario and Cole go on a trip, and they change the level quite a lot. The thing is, like, they make the the pipes like warm around. Mario can turn into an elephant. There's some crazy stuff happening, but the levels are very short, and it does feel like if you don't pick up these optional seeds, the levels are just plain boring. They're missing something. So you are supposed to pick them up, which I did. Like, and I picked up everything, every coin, did the bonus levels, but I don't know. It just felt they could have done more with this. Like, I would have loved bigger levels with even more secretive secrets, a bigger challenge of what you actually need to pull off. But I do love the direction. So if this were an indie game and it wasn't Nintendo and Mario, it would be A tier for sure. But for Nintendo, I think they left quite a lot on the table here. So maybe I'm feeling B tier now. Maybe. There's some passing decisions. I do have notes on my phone, but I won't go too far into it. They have these like hidden levels that are... It's not like the fun type of secretive. It's not like the challenging type of challenge. It's just like a chore to create. You kind of need friends, or you need to go with separate characters to see the hidden blocks. Because even if you jump around with some of them, you would never be able to hit them. So you need to know that they are exactly there, just out of range of the jump, so you can go there, maybe get on the shoulders of a friend. But I don't play these games with friends. I play them on my own because I'm a D&D nerd. Anyway, but I was very happy to see the 2D Mario game come back with a new style, a fresh set of clothes, for sure. It was fun. Oh, Persona 5 Tactica. So I was super excited about this because I only finished Persona 5 Royale last year and it was awesome. I was playing it for quite a while. I do love the gang. And my comment when I started playing this was like, oh, my friends are back. Which is, I guess, a common theme. Like, I really like Baldur's Gate because I really love the cast. I like games like Baldur's Gate, like Dragon Age and Mass Effect, because your crew is super cool. And that's what happened with Persona 5 as well. The combat is interesting and stylish. Not as interesting as Baldur's Gate, but quite interesting and stylish. Anyway, let's go to Tactica. It's cool to see the friends again, the gang back together again. Their style is not as awesome as it was in my head in PlayStation. But still, it's cute, it's nice. And the tactics part, I am a sucker for turn-based combat and that sort of thing. So XCOM, I love. Gears of War Tactics, I think it was just called that. I loved it. But I hated how on before each mission you need to do like some grind missions, like randomly generated missions that after a while got very boring because you keep doing them again and again. And this has a bit of that problem, that the missions are very plain, but even worse, because in Gears Tactics, the good missions, the non-grind missions, did have unique enemies, unique monsters, unique objectives. This one doesn't. Marvel's Midnight Suns. That was a game where the main missions were awesome, and I do like the Marvel banter and the callbacks because I am a nerd. But even without them, the tactics part was awesome. And it also had you do one grind mission before you could move on to the next regular mission. But sometimes I did do like more grind missions because they're awesome. I love the fights, I love the challenge. It was a truly special game, Marvel's Midnight Suns. This one, the cast is cool, but like the tactics, it's like cover-based tactics where you get damage resistance if you're behind something. But if someone comes back from behind, from your cover, so if you're hiding behind this door and I'm here, or this wall and I'm here, and I shoot you, it still counts as you have some cover, which is insane. That's not how that should work. It seems, I think there's only like 4 enemy types, and once you move on from the first kingdom and you go to the second kingdom, I wanted to check, do you get fresh enemies? And the answer is, sadly, doesn't look like it. You get the same enemies with like slightly different outfits. And it's not even like different designs. It's just different outfits, which just stops me from wanting to keep going. I will play adventure games, for example, where like the gameplay is not that engaging, but you get the cool dialogue, which you do get in this game every once in a while because you like the gang, you have the rapport. But you also do it for the new act, to see something cool, new interactions, new lovely things. And on this one, there aren't that many. Like, if only they had more interactions, more enemies, more of that stuff, I would keep going. But sadly, I don't think I'll come back and see how many kingdoms there are or what the ending will be. B tier, probably worse than Mario. And if you haven't played Persona 5 Royal, then you shouldn't play this. You should play like Marvel's Midnight Suns. If you have played it, and it's free on Game Pass as well, you can do worse. It is cool to catch up with the gang. I think I got a bit out of breath for this one. I sounded like too apologetic. B tier. Could be C tier, actually, now that I think about it. We don't have any on C tier. I think I'm dropping it further. All right. Keep going. Spider-Man 2. Now we're talking. So also released on my birthday and Super Mario Wonder Day. But I didn't play it then because I was busy with Baldur's Gate. That PlayStation was just on Baldur's Gate mode. And I did play it eventually. And liked it. Let me paste in the things. Marvel Spider-Man 2. And there's 2 Spider-Man in it. Marvel Spider-Man 1, I really loved. It was the year of God of War Ragnarok, which is an awesome game, if I remember correctly, and Red Dead Redemption 2, which I didn't like that much. And I think Spider-Man was my favorite game of the year, even more than God of War Original, not Ragnarok, of course. So, was it Red Dead 2 versus God of War? I think so. So yeah, for me that year, it was Spider-Man edging out God of War and far ahead Red Dead 2. Because the gameplay part of Spider-Man was amazing, pun intended. God of War had great gameplay to go along with the story, and Red Dead was just excruciating to get through, maybe with like 50% faster animations that have gone through it. Technical marvel and all that, but this is not the place to bash Red Dead Redemption. This is the place to celebrate great gameplay, and Spider-Man 1 had amazing gameplay. I loved the old Spider-Man games as well. Spider-Man may be my favorite superhero ever since I was a nerdy kid. And still now when I'm a nerdy grow-up. And just swinging in New York, a place that I've been now, is always amazing. They keep adding more landmarks. The quips I do like. That said, on this one, I wouldn't put it on the cream of the crop of the year. Maybe because it's been done before. Miles Morales had a terrible story where the villain was literally Troy. This one has a much better story that I had low expectations on, and it's kept getting better and better, which is great. And technically the gameplay is better and better. It needs a while to warm up, because in the beginning I do feel you just watch the gameplay itself and maybe move your controller around a little bit. But eventually it does get quite involved gameplay-wise. It is cool to pull off the combos and swing around New York. It is amazing to have the interactions with the two Spider-Man or other friends that appear. There are many callbacks. The suits are cool. The story is cool and gets better, as I said. But I think A tier, maybe top of A tier. I wouldn't put it on S tier. It's missing that X factor. Not sure. It's missing something truly special, which the first one I think had. And even some of the earlier Spider-Man ones had, if you were a super fan. The gadgets are not as fun, I think, as on the original one. Even though the Spider-Man powers are better. So combat is a bit of a give and go. I do like the activities, I do like the pacing of when you do activity stuff and when you do story stuff. It is a great game, amazing game. Do recommend. You should play this. But I do think it's just A tier. A for amazing. It's even red. Alright, Sea of Stars. So this is cool. This is an RPG that really reminds me of Chrono Trigger, like retro pixel style, but very high definition pixels. You wouldn't be able to actually do this in a Super Nintendo, even on the Chrono Trigger era. Like there are so many things that are going on here. I do like how the combat is Super Mario RPG style, where you have to press buttons to get a better effect or block some damage. It's a bit more engaging. I do love the tactics puzzle element of it, but when you do give me something to actually play, like that, I think that's the perfect combination. I haven't played enough to say whether... I don't think it can be S tier, and I'm hoping that they don't drop the ball at some point and it becomes B tier. But for now, I would say A tier game. And I wouldn't be able to say if that's because I do love Chrono Trigger and that era of games as well. To say something more about it, the cool thing is that even here I don't see Garl, where you do have two main characters, this lady and this dude, and they are the children of the solstice warriors, something like that. They're special. They were born on a special day. They represent like the winter season powers and the summer flame powers. And you were born, you were destined to be great and be a warrior of justice and stuff. But it's also about their friend Carl, who is just a regular cool dude with a great open heart. That's the spin that makes this a bit more special and not paint by the numbers throwback RPG. I do really like that aspect. And for the art style, I think it reminds me more of Suikoden, which was a series that I really loved in the past. But you don't recruit as many characters, nearly as many characters. But you do interact with quite a lot of colorful characters, which may be one other reason why it gives me the same vibes. Anyway, we'll be touching base. We'll be playing this in 2024 as well, for sure. Have high hopes. High hopes for this. Last row, 5 games remaining. SteamWorld build. Okay, I hadn't seen the ratings of this. SteamWorld build, I've loved some of the SteamWorld games. I find quite amazing that this company is making games in this SteamWorld universe, which is like this sort of cyberpunk robots. I don't know how to put it, but the characters are always cute robots. And SteamWorld Dig 2 was an amazing Metroidvania style game. You keep digging and you keep finding new weapons. You go back to areas you couldn't go before and use your new weapons to do more stuff. It was a great game, but I've loved other ones as well. The deck builder one was okay. Heist was one I really liked, where your little SteamWorld robot characters were cowboys. They had weapons and you had to turn-based attack other people in a 2D space and take account bullets resetting of walls. Anyway, I'm overcomplicating this. I'm just trying to say that this company had hit gold with Steamboat Dig 2, and yet they didn't do Dig 3. They didn't just keep running the same franchise. They keep running the same word, but in very different formats. And now they're doing city skyline style, resource management, like theme park style game. I think that's commendable. I think it's very cool. And I always look forward to what they're doing next because their powers keep increasing. On this one, it's nice, but it's a bit of a roller coaster ride in that in theory, you do manage the town and you do decide where to place things and when to create the upgrade buildings and whether you need a saloon or you need something else. But it feels like the game really wants you to just put things down as it expects. So now it's time to put up more residential areas, residential buildings. Now is the time to put a saloon. Now it's time to create I don't know, scrap metal extractor, whatever. So it didn't really feel like playing the game. It felt like I'm getting given instructions and then I just keep carrying through them. And the premise is cute and the word is cute. So this is a cute game to try out. But I don't think I'd be playing much more of it just because it plays itself. So, and like a game like City Skylines, where it does feel my vision is the thing that I am trying to fulfill. And of course, there are mechanics in the game that I need to work within those constraints. But still, it's my vision. If I want a city that's all renewable energy or whatever, I can try to do it. I can try to fulfill my vision for the best city in my way. But here, like, you'll come across these obstacles, you'll need to overcome them in the same way, exactly the same time. So that's like, it's missing that extra spice, that extra uniqueness. Like, it feels like I could watch someone else play this and they would play it the exact same way as I, even if they'd be placing like the actual buildings in slightly different ways. So B tier, I'd say. Hey, I can copy it from here. Learn. Sweet. 4 remain. Jusant. I don't know why I keep laughing with these games. So I've only played this quite recently in the Christmas period. I went overtime playing video games. And I heard that it's a great looking climbing game, and I've bouldered and climbed before. I know how to do like dinos and stuff in the occasion. And that's pretty much the game. I guess it has like an environmental message because these, oh my God, why are there boats here in the Sahara? It's because it's not the Sahara, it's a regular area and the waters are now gone. The sea levels have dropped. But it's also an okay climbing game. I don't know if it keeps adding mechanics as you go on, but at some point I felt like I had enough. I did meet the cute blob character, which kept me going for a while. But I guess when you do something like climbing, and it does have decent enough physics when it comes to the ropes and hanging on things, and how you go about squeezing the triggers to let go and grab onto other handholds. It does feel nice, but it did feel like there are places that I should be able to jump and hang on to that I couldn't, that the game didn't count for. And that's the cardinal sin of any climbing game. If you feel like you should be able to go there and do like a sick double jump, or hold on this rope that's clearly there on this net, and the game doesn't allow you to do it because it has a different route planned for you, then it loses me. So maybe C tier, B tier, C tier game. And again, all these games are great. Every game that gets released is great. Except that one game. It doesn't look correct. Will we fall to D tier? I don't think so. I think we're good. All right, 3 more to go. God of War Ragnarok. So now I'm talking about the DLC for God of War Ragnarok. I do think God of War Ragnarok itself, S tier game, easy S tier. Great story. I am Greek, I don't know if that affects things, even though they are not in Greece for Ragnarok and the other God of War I talked about earlier. Well, guess what? Greece plays more of a part on the DLC God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. They've managed to hit all the key Norse names, Norse myth names. So on this one, you play as Kratos. I'll avoid spoilers, I guess. Like, it's no surprise that you play as Kratos. But you battle with some inner demons, I'd say, that Kratos has, which naturally tie into Greece and Kratos's very worry stuff, very angsty past in Greece. If you don't know the reason God of Wars, they're pretty much Kratos gets betrayed and increasingly pissed by the Greek gods. Double-crossed, thinks he's had enough, thinks that every god should die, so he goes on and goes on a rampage until no god is left, which has effects to Greece itself, like the country of Greece or the area, and eventually, I guess, goes on to retire in Scandinavia, and the new God of War games happen. Anyway, on this DLC, he fights his inner demons a little bit, and it's rogue, like it's a Hades. Like, if you've played that game, Hades, S tier game for sure. It's a game about escaping hell, as it appears in Greek mythology as well. And every run you do, inevitably you die, and you come back and you keep talking to the same people that are there. Hades himself, and other characters from Greek literature, ancient Greece literature, like Achilles. You make friends of them. It has beautiful music. It has great writing. And it has many things that God of War Valhalla doesn't have. Deeper combat systems, I'd say. This one doesn't add anything to the main God of War mechanics. But more story stuff, more powers, more fights. Good. B tier or A tier? I would wish that the S tier of God of War Ragnarok plus the S tier of Hades would make for an S tier experience, but it's just a bit short. I think it's missing a bit something in the end. I did get every achievement, so I don't think there is something that I'm missing there, but maybe. It feels like it's one fight away from this being at least A tier, but it's just not there. So I did like the combat of God of War, but just I don't like it as a repetitive thing that much. That's my problem, I guess. So more story, more God of War, more weapons. It's fun, it's good, but probably B tier as it stands. But yeah, I need to say DLC only. Should copy this. I need to do the umlaut stuff. But yeah, S tier game, DLC, it's great that we have it and it's free, of course, and I was excited for it, and I did play it until it was done to see more of the story. There were some really cool moments as well, but it's not like drop everything and finish God of War and then play this. And you can do this even without finishing out the word, but you're missing a bit of the point. I guess it would need more characters, more interactions for me to be even happier with it. And as I said, like one more final fight. The case of the Golden Idol is something I played over Christmas. And it's a deduction game. You see a snapshot in time of like 5 seconds of a single moment of someone dying or another tragic event happening. I think always someone has just died, and you see like these 5 seconds being replayed in a little artistic, simplified vignette. And kind of like an adventure game, there are hotspots that you need to find that you can also display on the screen if you set your UI settings to that, which I did. And by investigating, by clicking on everything that's on the scene, you get the verbs and the nouns that you can use to put together the actual riddles that each scene has. So I don't know what you'd actually saw if you were to press on... when you press on people, you usually see their inventory, what they're carrying with them, like a sword or a pen, and very often a letter for someone else addressed to them. And from that letter, you can figure out that person's name or who else was talking to them, what they were trying to tell them, and you pick up those keywords in order to answer who was on the scene. Like, oh, this person is named this. That person is named that. Then a description of the events, like in the morning of that day, this person went there and wanted to blackmail that other person. And all these verbs and nouns, you have to find first on the scene and then put them together to finish the stage. And it was really fun. It was really soothing to go through. There were quite a few fingers. It had a bit of the Sudoku style at some point, where you cannot really get any new information anymore, but you have to try out a few things and see whether something fits in the end, where there are like 2 possible realistic scenarios and you need to figure out which one is which until you get contradicted. And even that was fun, because as I was thinking that a wild guess of mine was locked in as the correct answer, I felt that the story was taking shape in front of me, that I got it, that, oh, it was that person that was doing that. It's like, that's crazy. So it shows that little vignette of what just happened, and in your head you're building up what happened in the last 15 minutes. And when you eventually get everything correctly, you get the clarification screen that says, yeah, this is exactly what happened. And you're like, oh yeah, that was awesome. The ending gets more and more involved with the places you need to visit and things you need to remember. I did take notes to finish this game. And that's all I will say on the matter. Like, A to B tier game. I'd say B tier game. I don't want to spoil more things. B tier sounds decent. And there is DLC on this game, which I will be playing soon. And I play it on PC, which is very rare. It works on a Mac. Last one. Disco Elysium. Alright, so that's another old game that I just happened to start now. Narrative adventure game that's super funny, dry, if you have a dry sense of humor. I suppose you're trying to uncover a mystery, you're trying to uncover who killed a specific person and why, and the mystery gets deeper the more you look into it. And the big spin is that your guy doesn't have a memory of what happened yesterday or the day before or the week before, the month before. Remembers nothing. They went on a bender or something else, and doesn't remember anything. Doesn't remember they're a cop. They need to be told that they're actually a cop. And It does have role-playing elements in that you put in stats to your person, and they may be like strong, and capable, so they are able to shoot the heavy guns and make the crazy shots or intimidate people. Or you can put them in persuading other people. You can put points into getting better at persuading other people, picking up lies, and figuring out a crime scene, reconstructing crime screens, that sort of thing. So it feels like a game that would be very fun to replay in a different way, kind of like Baldur's Gate, bringing it all around. And the writing does seem to be quite good, and I haven't finished it. There are quite a few detective games that have burned me in the past because they were good, but then in the end they were really bad. But from what I've heard about Disco Elysium, I do think it's good writing all the way around. But I'm not sure who to trust, much like the character in the game. Because Pendinent, for example, would have been an amazing game if it was just the Act 1, but fumbled it, I think, at the end of Act 2, and kind of recovered, but still wasn't that great by the end. And the writing of that game was pretty good. It's just that they had a different vision to what I like in stories, I guess. And that may be the case with Disco Elysium as well, but I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. Well, I'm giving it the benefit of, so far, it's been extremely funny, extremely witty, extremely cool. I do like adventure games in general, but this has the unique spins of you putting points on your character. So sometimes you're good at doing the thing you want to do, and the RPG style mechanic, the Baldur's Gate Dungeons and Dragons style mechanic, where you do checks. Sometimes the game will tell you that you failed or succeeded at check. Sometimes it may be doing it behind the scenes, and new options will be available for you. You may notice something extra. You may be able to do something more. You may not know that someone is lying because you failed the check stealthily. It's quite interesting. And yeah, I may come back to this at some point and see what I think. I'd say A tier from now. Could be S tier. Like I don't pay any mind to what others have said about this game, so I'm not too worried with 89%. It's still a great game, to be honest. So A tier for now, and this wraps things up. I think we've almost talked about an hour about video games. Let's see. So S tier, we have Baldur's Gate and Tears of the Kingdom. Baldur's Gate, clear game of the year in my book. A tier, we have Disco Elysium, Sea of Stars, Spider-Man 2, Pikmin 4, Resident Evil 4 Remake. And Sea of Stars and Disco Elysium can move on in different directions according to how they play out as I keep playing them. B tier, Hi-Fi Rush, Cassette Beasts, Super Mario Wonder, SimWorld Build, and the DLC for God of War Ragnarok. And the case of the Golden Idol. And C tier, sadly, Persona 5 Tactica, but still, like, I played enough of this game to want to bring it up, to praise it. That it was a fun time and it was nice to catch up with the cast, and that CBR style is neat. Morgana looks cute. And Jusant, I played this game, it's true. And that's about it. So, thank you for indulging me with this extended Gamers Edition of Live Coding and Sale. We also worked with Airtable today, and I was editing this live and seeing it update on the site, which kind of shows that you don't need, when you want multiple people to be editing this, when you don't want a code release to change something like Airtable will do the job quite nicely. And we also saw the problems of trying to work with Airtable plus something else if you have two sources of truth by getting rate limited by OpenCritic API. But yeah, besides that early 2 hours, the rest of the stream was me talking about video games, which is what got me into engineering, I'll say again. And that's the thread. And that's the year. I think the next stream is going to be, and we can install it here. The next stream is going to be in the new year. Let me know what you'd like to see me cover. Again, a reminder, today Fred in the Discord said, I'm going to use Airtable. Can you bring me up to speed? And we did this stream. So maybe you have a suggestion like that yourself. Let me know in a comment in the Discord, wherever. I read every comment and reply, unless YouTube decides that it's spam. So try to make your comment look more legit, I suppose. I love covering things that people find useful or will probably find useful. I love covering things and technologies that I think will benefit you. And when you're stumped and you cannot find something related on YouTube or by Google searching, I love trying to explain those things as well. Because tech is awesome and web engineering is awesome, and I like doing my best to teach how awesome it can be, demystify things, because it can also be very intimidating. So let me know what you want demystified and I'll do my best. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next year. Again, let me know what you'd like to see me cover. I have some ideas, but I always prioritize when real people ask me real things that they want to find out. We will be indulging in a little bit of stats for the next stream. I can only imagine what's happened in 2023. What are the plans for 2024? Can't believe it's 2024. Almost already, just a couple of days to it. Otherwise, have a lovely, lovely rest of the holidays. Have a lovely new year. And I'll catch you on the other side on 2024. Bye.